Hello, Danny, and
Hi, Troy.
hello, our viewers. Here we are again for another episode of the Danny and Troy Show. And we have in store for this episode another reading, a creative writing piece from Danny, which is a continuation of the previous sessions and stories that we've read. And we are also working on developing a community of creative writers in the data scientist group. And this is really, I think, the examples or the not really the standard, but it's a great high standard of how to do creative writing and what it means, and the freedom that comes with it, in terms of not having to worry about the words and no editing, just let it flow. So I've had a sneak peek at this next piece, but I'm really interested to hear it coming out. And so I'll throw over to Danny.
Great. Thanks, Troy. I love your opening remarks because they always spur thoughts about with what I'm about to do or what I'm about to read. And I want people to know that I don't feel like I'm taking advantage of this situation so that everybody gets to listen to what Danny has written. I don't view it that way at all. I view it as in this particular segment, which I call Waking Dreams. I told Troy that it really is a lucid dream for the character Drukpa. And what it is what he's doing, which I think I would say most people from where I stand are sorting it out. He set a goal to control all the money in the world. And it's like, well, you could have done something, to have a garden outside, all right, or to figure out a way to get to Walmart without, driving my car. Everything's a challenge for the particularly at this point in time for this character,
Sure,
our hero. And as he's trying to sort it all out, the definition of the character, which is pretty much a drunk and a sex addict, he's going to be asking himself, perforce, what do those items mean to me? And am I going to have to sacrifice any parts of that in order to achieve my objective or his objective? Of course, it's coming out of my head too. And I think that in doing it, in learning how to express yourself effectively, the character is going through this process in trying to understand, with such an objective as he set for himself, is it worth it? What do I have to do? What's encouraging me? What's discouraging me? So it's part of the process of self-discovery for him. And we don't know yet, because as the plot develops, he may just say, you know what, this is too much, I don't need it. And why am I doing it? And so on and so on. And in that process, we look at some historical comparisons, which I opened with, of people who have asked themselves that very same question. Yeah.
Sure.
So I call it, the working title is either Dreams in the Waking State or Sorting It Out, one or the other. You tell me. You can put that in the comments section if you want, as to how effectively I've been able to accomplish this, my own personal objective. So here we go.
Great.
All right. To sleep, perchance to dream. There's the rub that makes calamity of so long a life. It's Shakespeare's Hamlet, written in 1602. Next, by Friedrich Nietzsche, What makes life worth living? The awareness that there is something for which one is ready to risk one's life. They had started to talk about time, if there is such a thing. Maybe it's just a crutch we use to understand where we are, what we are, who we are, when we are, why we are. Time was like studying jet trails to learn about aeroplanes. How do we plaster thoughts with reality? Subjective reality, the only truth, individual truth. What else matters? A truth forced upon us, holding superiority over one's own? That's slavery, imposition. And who would want that? Someone with a broken down mind? So infested with conjecture and doubt? Yet there were voices everywhere activated by symbols. Stop. Then there was go. Minds were infected and numb. Too much pressure. He felt the need to come, a release, a cleansing, a flushing, a chemical purification of the blood. He didn't need a woman for that. He could manage that himself. Who knew better what to do than he? For everyone else, it was just guesswork. But surprise was good. It kept him on his toes. There was a general prohibition against seeking pleasure. Pleasure, not happiness. If it weren't there, he was told the world would go awry. Hell, it had gone awry anyway, so what did it matter? Look at the world of porn. That helped people escape. But the tension was on overusing it because it became habit. And what? Did it destroy the social structure? Big deal. Dirty government dealings kept people apart. Divide and conquer. Every dry hole wanted to be the center of attention. They would do anything to get on camera. Every woman is an exhibitionist. Drukpa knew that every woman could be talked into bed. You could look like a gorilla, and most men do, but if you would end up having your penis in another woman's mouth or pussy, it didn't matter anyway. They never looked at your face. If you did that, however, you would then have to think, what are you going to do to get rid of them? What's the difference between a toilet and a sorority girl? Toilets don't follow you around once you use them. It was a funny thing about women, like a cafe girl in Latvia had once told him when he asked why the most beautiful women were with the ugliest of men. She replied, "He may be a bag of trash, but he's my bag of trash." You see, it became an ownership thing. That's what marriage was all about. He didn't know a man that needed it. It was a woman thing. The state had bowed to it because women wouldn't leave them alone otherwise. That entitled a woman to the property of a man, all of it but the car. She kept the cave, whether he had known her for 5 minutes or 50 years. Come in a woman, and you're theirs. Lock, stock, and barrel. Don't like it? Tell it to the Marines. So life had been programmed like dropping into the cogs of a machine already in motion. And if you didn't want trouble, you better play along, go with the flow. Otherwise, you could play the bachelor and feed off women's desires to have another one after they had secured the first one and all of his belongings. Belongings, get it? Yuck, yuck. You see, it didn't work for them either. Finding a rich widow wasn't as difficult as one might imagine. The older ones are happy to have the attention. He started to think that money and attention were the same. Maybe just some go-between. Everyone thought he was so special, but he wasn't. He just admitted the truth, subjective reality, and got on with it. The world lived in a trash heap. He knew it. Lots of bags of trash laying around. But accepting that fate was not his bailiwick. It had something to do with submission, or if you wish, it was all some kind of international order limiting people who followed to control in their belief that mom and dad would not have lied to them. No, emphatically not. They were just limited in comparison to the world you had inherited. Next. His mind was like a freeway, replete with every imaginable jalopy. It was a beach during Labor Day, an airport terminal, a bus station, the freeway at rush hour, and a grocery store all together. Maybe he was from Africa, where people had evolved, while feeding on low-hanging fruit, never having to forage for roots and fish. Now, there was something. He really liked fish, especially octopus. He deep fried it once breaded, only to watch it dissolve in the oil. The question for him was how to filter this river of thought into something useful, not saying that his ethic was usefulness, which was an ardent choice, planetary-wise, utilitarianism. And lest we forget, forgetfulness is the key to happiness. He was like dancing in a frying pan. The moment one foot landed on the searing flat, he switched to the other and so on. He couldn't stand still. Hot foot, like a compass twirling, spinning out of control. Which way was north? That away. Which away? That away. Does anybody know where we are? He was witnessing chaos. He was addressing chaos, the natural state of things. What is to be done? Make sense of things? It seemed like a command with people watching. He couldn't do it for other people. All this social programming was making him sick, him and everyone. The new cyber socialism. They controlled you through space. No assignable criminals. Life bites, B-Y-T-E-S. It was left to the individual to blame anyone they wanted to. Dangerous situation, highly flammable, going down the tubes. Let's go, Brandon. Well, what was it all about? People busy, people lazy, not caring about people wasn't encouraged. The big push established values. But hadn't Nietzsche said, revalue all values? He didn't say it was going to be easy. Like being in a box of fleas. If Jesus was the answer, what was the question? It was all a big trap. He was the cork in a wine bottle. Pull me, pull me, pull me, put me in, pull me out. But wait, he was the corkscrew. The cork was in the global anus. That was sure to be a joyous occasion, one of the great pleasures of old age, I am told. He could imagine what it would be like. Yuck. It was the proverbial asshole baby. That was the taint territory. Taint ass, taint pussy. Taint here, taint there. What a place to be, nowhere. Taint one nor the other. Just make it all go away. If there only were a God, what a terrible tease, like putting a cup of water just out of reach. But there's no cup of water, no cup, no water. If there is something there, it's a cup of glue. He accepted it. The death of God in men's minds led to this. The church had rotted through, and he was on his knees, not in prayer, not for prayer. How do you know you're in a gay church? Half the congregation is on their knees. He knew he would have to act fast. They were out there waiting, ready to spring, and he was the goat tied to the stake. What a scenario. Those kinds of thoughts ruptured his mind. He knew that competition in cyberspace meant he would be a loser. They had been at it much longer than he. They would crush him, and he wouldn't even know it. Life would just become frustration. Maybe it was here already. Maybe he was taken down and didn't know it. But there was Troy. He was an ardent viewer of the news, of which there was none. They were just shaping his thoughts with coverage. As long as there was money and it was the answer to everything, how could he bring the world to right? Just what was that objective? Just how was he going to do it? What was he going to do? Where would it lead? Would it be better or worse? Did it matter? He had to have a better way, something not in the program. Was that easy? Not. Would the pressure of needing to find answers be a better way than having an answer and applying it? Such things had to come naturally, he thought, but in this case, he was faced with a dilemma and wanted an answer. Was that even feasible? He thought he had an idea. Control all the money in the world. Okay. Had he a way forward and how to go about it? Digitally. Okay. Here he was clawing his way up the walls of the well he had allowed himself to fall in, damp, slippery, dark, inch by inch. That seemed clear enough. But first, he had himself to deal with, one of the greatest challenges he had, which was to cease caring for women as ardently as he used to. They were happy to take all the attention one could give them, but if he stopped, they had nothing to do. They were not used to giving, just taking. Things went to hell. He had to back off. That meant he might lose favor of the women he was with or those to come. Sure, it was a bus stop. Wait 5 minutes and the next woman will be along. But adjustments had to happen, and that was unsettling. What about all that investment? Who needs trouble? The women he knew would punish a man for slowing down or stopping the attention they were used to receiving. That could kill him. His showing off, his drive, and weigh him down immeasurably. So why bother? Who needed to upset the apple cart? What's the good of it? What worth of it? Wasn't he well enough off without going for the gold? Why even bother? What a silly man. He would never achieve anything so great. Christopher Columbus was not a woman, nor was Magellan, nor Ponce de Leon. Was there that something different and special in him to sacrifice everything for nothing? Hogwash. Why bother? Now he was going to involve others. Troy. Was Troy a spark to the flame? The spark? Was he king of the hill material? What was the driving force? Where did this idea even come from? Did he need to be famous? Did he need to be a kamikaze pilot? Were his pants on fire? Was it a man thing? Him, an instrument? He enjoyed wine, women, and song enough. Why bother? Why stand out? There were people more ruthless than he who wouldn't pause to smash him to bits. Success was for the rude, ruthless, cruel, who afterwards sat in a corner and patted themselves on the back, praising their station in life, only to wobble into old age. Could he cut it? It must have something other than that in it. Power, dueling, testing oneself against the best to see if one were the best. Wasn't required to be an entrepreneur. So Eliot had said to him, be a gardener, an observer, a bystander. Notoriety? Was that it? A result of people watching and applauding his decisive moves without a thought of ever being notorious? Ego? What the fuck? Try it yourself. There had to be a better answer than any of those. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Something deeply personal, or else why bother? Was his sexual desire tied into his need to conquer? Maybe he was just middle ground. It sure was nicer to have some resistance to his sexual advances, to have some fun, if you can call it that. Maybe it was simply built in. There was no fun in a too easy conquest. It didn't ramp up desire. That was probably something about rape. That is, if women too, then it's the right way. Surely he had met some who encouraged it, enjoyed it, maybe even required it. No, no, no meant yes, yes, yes. There was some fight left in the old dame yet, a challenge for the man. Stop means go.
All right.
Rantings of a madman, that's what you can expect. That stream of consciousness, right? That the whole time you're being conscious, if that's what I am, you're asking yourself, why am I doing this? And what am I just making a fool of myself? And the dialogue continues, Troy. It doesn't stop.
Sure.
Every time I say something, there's another voice in my head that says the opposite. It's like, I love this Russian word. It's called drushlak. And it's a colander, where when you pour your spaghetti into an instrument, the water seeps out and all that's left is spaghetti. And I'm waiting for all the water to seep out.
No, I think that's a great way to describe it. I mean, these voices that come in, or thoughts that are coming through, and this is what creative writing is about, is that Colander capturing some of that and letting it come down, whether it's on pen to paper or keyboard to screen, just to let that flow. I mean, that's the joy, or the, I guess, fun and insights that I'm sure, I'm getting so much insights and connections, and I'm thinking of this is sparking off thoughts of mine. Okay, I can see what that is about, and I know, I feel and can relate to something here, or I'm wondering, is that in reference to this? But it's the process of letting that spark thought, letting that sit and dwell and absorb information. So there's a lot of going on. One is these words have come through you, and like you said, been just in there, and then as you are in the moment and let it flow, writing it down. Of course, I've heard you say sometimes you can't write fast enough to get it all down. So there's going to be some seepage, some things that go through it, but I believe, that was meant to, and that's not, the things to dwell on or to worry about. But then to have that piece, first of all written, second of all read, third of all recorded, and now, open to this community or interpretation of a wider audience, for them to take whatever they feel. And that's the beauty part of this process, I think, the creative writing, is that, nobody can say, oh, you should have said this or you should have said that, because it's your piece, it's your creative writing. And that level of freedom that comes with that, and just me as an observer reading that and observing that and listening to that, I see that how much freedom, it comes from just being able to do this process that we're labeling creative writing. But I think there's a bigger scope to it, what we're talking about here, a deeper underlying process. But yeah, to give it the name creative writing allows for freedom, and nobody can take that away. And I think that's one thing that, I'm seeing more and more restrictions, people, major bodies and, big tech or pharmaceutical companies, governments, global institutions saying, you can't do this and you must have this, or whether it's a vaccine or, another restriction on what they want to do. But yeah, and the main meaning behind, not the main meaning, but one of the meanings in there around this controlling all the money in the world, allowing that freedom, I see it taking that away from these big organizations, these conglomerates and monopolies that are seeking this global dominance, and to come up with an alternative. The alternative's not there. And the questions that coming in that piece is like, how are we going to do it? What are we going to do? But is it even possible? Why would you take on such a large goal? And, why don't you just choose something that's easier? So, yeah, there's so many different levels and angles to that, that I think, but as a whole, it's just fun to, from my side, I didn't read it. I didn't write it, but I want to be able to do that same level of free flowing writing, which I know would bring another level of enjoyment and fun, rather than, not that, I think I need a lot of work to get to that point where I can open up.
It's a process. It's
Sure.
a process.
Sure.
You don't learn to ride a bicycle by the first day by getting on it, right?
That's right.
You're going to fall over, you're going to stub your toe, right?
Yeah.
Scrape your knee, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if you really want to ride a bicycle, then that's what you want. You've set it as
Exactly.
your objective. I want to be able to ride this bicycle. And then we get into mountain bikes and then racing bikes, and then we get into motorcycles and
Exactly.
whatever. All that other stuff follows, You said about creative writing,
Mm-hmm.
and the way you said it, that it two other words came to my mind, and that was creative expression.
Right.
That I think if we're going to segmentalize this process, then writing it down is a small part of that process.
Sure.
The other processes include a few, like allowing it to flow.
Okay. Wonderful. Right? Yeah.
Having the ability to capture those thoughts and hand-eye coordination and mental thinking, and I got a big book, like that, and then plenty of room to just page after page. Here, I think you've seen it before, but I'll show it to you, right? It's a huge book.
Sure.
Right. I think the dimensions are on here, so 11 by 17.
Yeah. Can I ask about that?
Go ahead.
Did you write that on paper first, or did you go straight to the keyboard?
I'm sad to say that I went straight to the keyboard.
Okay.
Principally because my desk is so cluttered that I've got to, put the book open over here to my right, and then over here to my left. When I do it on notes, and then I have to email it to myself, open up the email on the Toshiba, so it's bigger, I can read it. And it's a matter of simplification. And I prefer writing it down in the book. Absolutely, no questions asked.
Okay.
However, finding a pen that writes and flows with me is not as easy as it seems. Here
Sure.
I've got a number of different pens, right? And this one, I've got my favorites.
Right.
As long as the inch flows out, and this one's from Plantation Resort, where whoever they are, I don't know, but it's a nice pen, and it allows me to write those thoughts down. However, I
Yeah.
started to realize that in this digital world, that if I'm going to write it down in the book, then I've got to, which is absolutely free. And I have notations, about things, as for instance, and I've done this since I taught at college, where I was writing on the blackboard, and I said, I want you to get used to the idea that is ing,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
right?
Shorthand.
Because to write ing means I have to go up and down and down and up and around and then circle and down and up again. And it's like, you know what? If I had to do that with all words that end in ing, I would be, it would stop the flow.
Right.
So I have my own shorthand, right,
Wonderful.
of ing. And one of my
Okay.
classes, one of my students said, you know what that is, don't you? And I said, no. And they said, in Arabic, that's the signature of God. And I said, okay, great. Thanks for the loan of it, right? So, it's the whole, we were talking about the whole process of creative expression. Being able to not edit oneself is,
Sure.
I think, the most important thing. Not only to access it, and then to realize that when I go back, it was like, that didn't come from me. I can't think like that. I could never sit down and incorporate those kinds of thoughts into an expression. So it has to be, I'm here just to help put it down somewhere so that, it doesn't stay lost any longer.
Sure.
And I guess, if I'm the Druschlock, I'm the colander, well, then I guess some of it depends on me. It's like what gets recorded, how quickly, what are my disabilities in doing that? And then, God forbid, I should hit in my mind, the use of a word like rape or pussy or asshole or, any of that other stuff. I feel like George Carlin, all the
Sure.
words I'm not supposed to say. And it's like, but that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking those words,
Sure.
right?
That's right.
And part of those choices of words are to create the feeling of, for instance, being offended, right? So there's a valence and an opening for a person who, they're going to have an emotional reaction to the use of the word. It was like, Mark Twain, and pardon the use of the word, but he wrote about, what was it, Nigger Joe? And then they go back and they take Mark Twain's words and they rewrite them. Why? Because it's politically correct.
Sure.
For what? For small minds of people who can't understand. And it's like, here's a full meal, and be careful because the meat has bones in it. Oh, no. We can't do that. Because what if a child swallows the bone? Oh my God, it's going to be a lawsuit. And so let's take out all the bones. And it's like, would you please shut up? It's like, don't go outside because there are mosquitoes and you might get bitten.
Exactly.
Right? Or don't eat that food after it's been cooked and sitting on the counter overnight, because you're going to get food poisoning. And then your mother and your brother and your sister and your neighbors and your wife and your children. And I just want to, silence these voices.
Sure.
And the best way I know to silence these voices is to stop their editing. That's another part of the process.
Great.
Is disobeying the voices that are trying to tell me what to do and what not to do, and how much I'm going to have to pay for freedom of expression. That's the number. That's the First Amendment of the Constitution in the U.S. Right, and that's why the Democrats are gnawing away at it. Is because that limits their control. Right. And it's all about power and all that other business. And of course, power is I think it's been said, is the biggest aphrodisiac. Right. Which mentions, is it okay to rape a woman? Well, if she says no and means yes, where do you draw the line? You know, because it's certainly popping up now since Epstein, right? Who was, I'm convinced, was trying to blackmail everybody he could by providing sexual favors. From what men know, it's like, yeah, when a woman passes a certain experience level, and which is generally associated with age, then it becomes hardly worthwhile anymore, you know, because then it becomes nothing spontaneous, and, you know, no sense of awe from either or both parties, you know. And I can't say I wouldn't blame them, but I think a lot of people, Prince Andrew, maybe Bill Clinton, you know, and all these other people would be a lot better off if they just said, yes, I did it, and here's why I did it. Because this toxic masculinity has killed me.
Okay.
And so I want to go with women who haven't been indoctrinated about how tough it is to be a woman and what you have to do to protect yourself, honey. You know, that Oprah Winfrey kind of upchuck that I intentionally avoid, or the color green, that really vulgar person. You know, it's just like, okay, I just don't want to listen. I'm not interested in it. And sure as hell not going to get into an argument, right? Or some kind of pissing match with these people and the producer, right? And the distributor and the network and the critics. And then it's like, well, Danny, you know, it took us about 3 seconds to take you down, and you'll never appear in the public eye ever again. Unless, of course, we can figure out a way to make money out of it.
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, Troy, I'm trying to cleanse myself. Right?
Well, I see that, you know, that aspect of freedom, that aspect of creativity, that aspect of flow, that aspect of enjoyment that comes from this. And, you know, I can see you in that space, and I can see us developing that space for others. That's what we're looking to do, is to create this group, creative writers group, advertised to over 170,000 data scientists, to enable them a space where, like we've discussed in the past, they don't need to share it, but they need to be in that space, I think. I mean, there's a level of benefits that I see that could help anybody if they feel the sense of freedom, they feel a sense of, okay, I can't say that word, but and then the non-editing thing as well. I think, yeah, to enable a space for any group of individuals, but in this case, it's data scientists, to have a space where they can just be free, be open, and let things flow. And then, yeah, we're going to encourage sharing. We're going to encourage being open. We're going to be encouraging this community of environment where you don't have to be an individual. The refreshingness of being able to share it with somebody and not be worried, oh, what's Troy going to think? Like that's the environment I see us working towards and establishing and offering to others.
That's a gold mine, what you just described. You know, maybe that is the larger purpose, is to sweep the mind clean, not brainwash it, but sweep the mind clean, and give way to to freedom, and let it go viral, so that you know, every time I breathe, or I'm in the presence of other people, I'm not polluted by them saying, you can't say that.
That's right.
Or what's wrong with you, or whatever. And it's like, thank you for your thoughts. You know, I would like to maybe click on you now, right? Click, and you can just disappear, because it's not it's not promoting, from my own assessment, my own well-being.
Sure, exactly.
And if that means, you know, I get to live in a, you know, an old house in the country, so I can be alone. And not, you know, I mean, sure, I go to the post office and shopping for food and things like that, washing clothes, what a lot of people do. I won't say everybody. And then just not be confronted with somebody who has a problem they want to share with me.
Right.
Why can't you be more like me? Well, thank you.
Sure.
Don't even go there. I'm getting better and better at not engaging people. And I find, that the best way of avoiding that kind of conflict is in some manner in the affirmative.
Okay.
Right? I don't have to engage in the conversation. I can just smile. I can, thank you. And, people are just, they don't know what to do. It's, I remember there was a woman who had her dog on a leash curbside in a nearby town. And I was driving my car by, and the dog was, obviously in the street. And I've driven for 50 years or so. And I thought, okay, I'll just get close enough to give her the message that you need to control your dog, right? Because she was standing between cars curbside. And there was no crosswalk, no zebra, as they call it in Russia. No, she was jaywalking, I think. I wasn't there to teach a lesson or anything, but I just continued. I went around the block continuing to look for a parking spot. I found one. I got out of the car and I went down to the street I was headed towards on foot. And I passed this girl and she said, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And I didn't say a word.
Okay.
Which is my best way of disengaging, right?
Okay.
I used to tell my friends, don't step in front of the bullet.
Sure.
Right. And so I just, and she was going absolutely nuts. I would like to think, and still do think, because of something that was going on in her.
Sure.
Well, here, let me sacrifice my dog so I can bitch at you. It's like, thank you for sharing. Right.
Okay. That's it. I think, I mean, there's so many golden messages or gems in the words or in the experiences and the processes that we're talking about. And they just keep on coming.
Well, if you'll bear with me for at least one more session, I'd like to tidy up this because it's my process too, of figuring out how the hell I'm going to do it with these mind games, right?
Okay.
And because what the character is going through is, of course, what I am going through. And asking myself in a real life situation, and you know that, and you share that with me, there's not a lie in the bunch, right? I have no reason to lie.
Sure.
What's that going to serve me? Talk about things that don't exist? I don't think so. So, just continue on, at least until I get to a platform or some kind of plateau where at least some of these issues that the character brought up are resolved in a way in which, we can go forward.
Great.
And of course, the pollination of what we're doing has led to this creative expression that we want to offer to our data scientists, like everybody who suffers from exclusion, right? Or rules and regulations. And it's like, no, we're talking about freedom of the mind. Even if it means we have to establish our own planet, Nibiru, which we talked about previously, right? And be able to have this we've got imaginary gods. Why can't we have imaginary planets?
Sure.
Then we can set up our own gods if we need them, but we don't need them. And form the world the way that we see it being formed, because other people do. And then they trap themselves and their families and their country and everything into what we're supposed to do. And if you don't follow and toe the line, you're a traitor.
Right.
It's like, is all that somehow supposed to affect me? And what do you care anyway, whether somebody has a different opinion or not? Does that really, rile you so much? Maybe here, I had a friend in private practice you might want to talk to and work some of your shit out, rather than spending all your time being devious. and not letting us know how many biolabs you have in Ukraine and what kinds of, infectious diseases that they are combining with your DNA studies so you can wipe out certain ethnic groups. It's like, what's the purpose of that again? You never said what the purpose was, but obviously, you want to, I don't know, control the world. Me, I just want to control the money. And in controlling the money, whatever that means and is going to mean, okay, if I feel like, we have an approach, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen tomorrow when we get the answer.
Sure.
But certainly, it's worth considering and go through that whole routine, whether it works out or not.
Exactly.
But my commitment to it and coining that whole objective seems rather real. And you can see the character going through all of this. What the fuck am I doing? Why this one? Why can't I just, make ice cream and sell it off my back porch? Well, because the health department's going to be there, son. Right? And it's all got to be stainless steel, and you have to stand on your head while you're doing it, and you have to buy the ice from the state, which of course is water from the government, because they own all the land anyway. And by the time they finish talking to me, it's like,
Okay. Yeah. Actually,
I'm out of here.
controlling all the money in the world might be a little easier.
Yeah, I think some people are working on it. Those cyber nerds or
Right.
whatever you're calling them, right? Anyway, so I've
Okay.
taken enough time, Troy, almost an hour and a half. Thank you very much. Love talking with you.
Great.
Thank you for
Great.
everything that you do to encourage my freedom of expression.
Well, I think it's,
I'm deeply indebted to you, Troy.
I think it's your thing, and it's your, talent that I can see, and opening them up and letting them be viewed and seen as the value that they bring is just, a great gift. And like you were saying before, what we're offering, it goes beyond the realms of creative writing, but I'm trying to imagine a world where if everybody had access to this capability, the world would be a really different place. And let's do what we can to actually recognize it and utilize it ourselves, and see who else feels the same way about the benefits.
What a great statement. You got my support.
And I'm looking forward to the next one. So,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right. We'll see.
Great.
Thank you, Troy.
Funny.
See you tomorrow.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.